Hello. Before we get into this, just take a breath with me. Just breathe. And I want you to really feel into this question. Have you ever had that moment where you can see exactly what you're doing? You can feel the pattern happening. You know where it comes from, and you still do it anyway. That moment where you think, why am I still choosing this? Or maybe it's, why do I keep doing this? If that's you, stay with me. Because today we're not talking about awareness. We're talking about what happens after you become aware. Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Human Project podcast, where consciousness meets creation and alignment becomes a way of life. I'm your host, Elgin, and today we're going into something I see all the time, especially with high-achieving, self-aware people. You wake up, you become more conscious, but your life doesn't actually change. And no one really explains why. So let's start here. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your patterns. You are the one that is aware of them, the witness. And from that place, you are constantly generating a field through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your beliefs, your nervous system. And from that field, your life takes shape, your choices, your behaviors, your results. So whether you realize it or not, you are always creating. And see, the thing is, you don't fix your life directly. What I mean by that is, if I have a habit that I keep doing, then I often will try to just stop the habit, stop doing that thing that I'm doing. But it's important for us to remember the action is the form, not the field. So I need to backtrack. I need to look at, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking while I'm doing that? What are the feelings that I'm emoting at that moment? And then from there, what is the belief that comes? What are those thoughts based on? So if I'm behaving a certain way, then I must be feeling a certain way and thinking a certain way. And all of that has something that's rooted into, which is going to be a belief. So what are the beliefs that I have? Say I have a judgment. Maybe I'm being judgy. Well, judgment is based off of an expectation, and expectations are based off of our beliefs. So I need to look at what that is coming from. What is the belief about how something's supposed to be? It's important for us to look at this because we try to fix the habit or the thought pattern or the behavior directly, and we don't deal with what's causing it, then we're never going to be able to hold it. We can know it up here, but it's very difficult for us to embody it. Your life is downstream from your field, and that's important. So we don't want to deal with the bottom first. We want to come up to the top and see what's going on. Downward causation is a beautiful example of this. So downward causation, you can visualize this upside down triangle. And at the very top of causation is creation itself. We call it bliss consciousness. And so in bliss consciousness, we have oneness. Whatever that is for you. Maybe it's God, maybe it's source, maybe it's universe, whatever it is. Your truth, the way you language it. And then creation, life source, wants to experience itself. And so it pixelates and becomes into separation. And we have supramental consciousness, which is individualization, which includes our archetypes or aspects of personality, where we use one or two words to explain a whole person. Oh, she's such a diva. He's a total jock. These are archetypes. We kind of sum them up with a couple of words. And then we have monads, and monads are aspects of emotion. So he's an angry person. She's a happy person. These would be monads that we have. And so everything is filtering from oneness and it comes through individualization. And you can see these thoughts and behavior and emotional patterns that everything streams through. And it all comes down and then it gets a little heavier. So you can think we pixelate and then things are getting a little denser as it becomes more form. And so then we have mental consciousness. And mental consciousness is our thoughts, our ideas, our beliefs. It's our identity, our ego, personality, all within mental consciousness. And then we have what we call vital consciousness. And vital consciousness, we can definitely feel a little more. Vital consciousness includes our emotions, it includes our meridians and our chakras, the energy body. And so, and together, those two things, mental consciousness and vital consciousness, we call the subtle body. And so we can feel it. You can feel negative thoughts. You can feel anger in a room. You can feel joy in a room or love in a room where a room feels good. We can feel these things. So they're subtle. We can't see them necessarily with our eyes, but we can feel them. We can get a sense of them. And then finally, energy collapses and we get what we call physical consciousness, which includes our body, our breath, and the environment around us. And so if everything is coming down through there, then to change our physical outcome, so that's why I say it's downstream, we have to change the way we think, to change the way we feel, to change our experience that is physical. And so we can't work on our life at life form. That's why we can have something that comes up and we can maybe start eating better. We can have surgery. We can take medications. We can exercise. We can do all these things, physical on physical. But can it last? Can it hold? You know, I remember when I was listening to them talk about cancer, and a coworker of mine was going through it. And she said that she was in a meeting with the oncologist, and the oncologist was asking her about the toxic things that were in her life. She had some toxic relationships. And he said, if you do not change those toxic environments that you live in, I can give you all the cancer treatment. And even if we cure this, it will most likely come back. You need to change the toxic environment that created this outcome. And it showed me that there are aspects within even Western medicine that we understand this more now than ever. I mean, that conversation was maybe 10 years ago, so it was a big deal to hear that 10 years ago. How does fear, how does anger, how does resentment, how does it all affect the physical outcome? That's science. And we know this now, psychoneuroimmunology. And so we need to change the way we think and change the way we're emoting, we're feeling to change the physical body. So I can be a vegetarian, but if I don't change my resentment, I'm just eating resentful organic food. It's not going to make that big of a change on my life. I'm still going to get sick. And that's why people say, I don't understand. He's a really healthy person. He ran, marathons all the time, ate healthy, did all these things, but you don't know what was inside his mind. You don't know emotions that he was feeling. And so if we want to change the form, we need to change the field. The key here is nothing in your life is random. Now, this is where it gets real. There is a moment, and it happens very quickly, where the pattern starts, you feel it, you recognize it, and then you go into it anyway. And that's the moment most people don't understand. So let's simplify what's happening. There's the part of you that is aware, the witness. I call it zooming out, your superconsciousness, your soul, your spirit. And then there's a part of you that is conditioned, your subconscious, which is your patterns, your identity that is built from the past. And then there is your conscious mind, the part of you that can choose. Here's the problem. Most people are aware, but they are still living from their subconscious and using their conscious mind to explain it after the fact. And when that is happening, it doesn't feel like choice. It feels automatic because your nervous system is wired for what's familiar, not what's aligned. So even when you see the pattern, your body pulls you back into it. Same reaction, same emotion, same behavior. Now, research shows that most of your behavior is subconscious, and your body becomes conditioned to emotional states. So what you feel regularly, you reinforce, and what you reinforce becomes your reality. You see, you can know better and still live the same way. I'll give you an example. I grew up in a life of feeling a lot of confusion, fear, resentment, and I was used to a certain level of what we would refer to as abuse, physical, mental, and emotional. And so when I got to be about 18 years old, I married my first husband, a husband that turned out to be a sociopath. And the day after we got married, I moved away from my home, and all of a sudden, the abuse started. Physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. And so by the time I was 20, I was getting a divorce on the grounds of physical, mental, and emotional and sexual cruelty. Now, fast forward. I have been doing this work for a minute. And just like a year and a half ago, so we're going to go about October of 2024, I met an amazing psychotherapist named Carol Luck. I've had her on the podcast before. She does a lot with emotional freedom technique. She's one of the founding members for tapping. And her and I start working together. It's her first session. I say I want to work on abundance. What are my blocks to abundance? And next thing I know, we're talking about my mother. I'm a little bit irked because I'm like, I don't want to talk about my mother. I want to talk about abundance. And as we're going into this, she makes a comment to me. And she says, well, of course you married your first husband. You married your mother. And I was stunned. Now, I made a whole bunch of excuses, and I did what I habitually do, which is I protected my mother. And it was very difficult for me to look at the patterns and notice what was happening. So even though I knew that love was not people hitting you or yelling at you or gaslighting you or all the things that I went through, I still stayed in that pattern because subconsciously, even though it wasn't healthy, it was normal. And for my nervous system, it understood that. So my job became not only becoming aware of a pattern of like, what do you want? What do you not want? What's healthy relationships? What's unhealthy relationships? It's also taking the moment to pause and recognize my nervous system feels comfortable with this, even though it's not healthy. So I need to go into this little bits at a time to allow my nervous system to become reorganized, to become more comfortable with a healthy relationship. And it would take time. It's like rungs of a ladder. My next relationship would be, quite a bit better, actually, in all fairness. And then my next relationship, which would end up being my second husband, is quite a bit better yet. And then, that moves on. There's a couple of other people in there that aren't worth mentioning. And then we get into the relationship that I'm in now. Now we've been together for 16 years, dated for a couple years off and on before that. And we've been married for 2.5 years now. And I would say, in the beginning, there was still levels of dysfunction of both of us coming through and trying to navigate how to have healthy boundaries and communicate. And we needed to figure all these little bits out. But we were okay with the discomfort. So it was like getting a little bit better with discomfort. And we grew together. We both healed our own wounds, our old traumas and dramas of our pasts. And we did it in sync, where we made the choice, we were worth the effort to keep working towards that end goal of joy, of peace, of calm, of happiness. I always laugh because he says, I came into your life to teach you patience. And it turns out I might have come into his life to teach him the same. My point here is awareness does not override conditioning. And this is where ego and pain body come in. Okay, your ego is not the enemy. It's the identity built from the past. It's what says, this is who I am. This is how I react. This is what keeps me safe. And your pain body is stored emotional energy. It's everything you've experienced that hasn't fully moved through. So when something happens, your pain body activates. It gets triggered. And then your ego reinforces the identity. And before you realize it, you've chosen the pattern. And this is where most people stop. They say, I see it. I know this pattern. I understand where it comes from, but nothing changes because awareness alone does not interrupt the pattern. Awareness shows you the program, but something else has to choose differently. So let me pause you here, because this is the moment where something either clicks or you move past it. If you're not your thoughts and you're not your emotions, then who is choosing your life? And more importantly, are you choosing or are you repeating? This is where your power actually is. In the moment you become aware, there is a gap between the pattern starting and you acting on it. It is small, but it is there. And that gap is where your conscious choice lives. That's where your life changes. Your body will default to the past. So this isn't about forcing change. It's about becoming aware and then choosing differently over and over again. Because repetition is what rewires the subconscious, not insight. So I am a strong wood element, which means there's 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. I've talked about them before. I'll link one of our previous ones into the notes so that you can see it or listen to it. And in the wood element, the stress response for wood element is anger, irritation, frustration, resentment. These are all kind of standard stress response behaviors of a wood element. We have all 5 within us, but we always have a dominant. So my go-to when I was triggered, when a wound was hit, used to be to come out hot. I would be aggressive. I would be angry. It would be very much, I would go into an offense mode. So about 4 years ago, we were at work and I have a clinic that I co-own with a friend. And at the clinic, something happened. I got triggered and I immediately got angry. And I mean, really freaking angry. Now, I've done this work enough that I at least didn't say something and I paused and I kind of took myself out of the situation. As I took myself out of the situation, I started to take a walk and I'm like, you need to get out of here. Everybody needs to give me some space. And I kept asking myself as I was walking, why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? So in the past, I would have gone into the offense mode. I would have absolutely targeted the person, let them know why they were wrong, let them know how they didn't do something right. And I probably would have made them feel about this small. They would not have felt safe around me. They would not have felt secure. They would not have felt loved. Nothing about the environment would have been comfortable. None of it would have been healthy. None of it would have been mentally or emotionally safe. But I've done enough of the work, thank goodness. And so I took the walk. Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? And I had this old, deep insecurity that was being triggered. And so because I took the pause and took the walk, I was able to come back in and ask a simple question. And when I asked the question with complete curiosity, all of a sudden they understood why I was so upset. And that curiosity, when I asked the question, do you believe this about me? And they were like, absolutely not. And then they got why I was so triggered so they could have a level of compassion. I got to have a conversation with them. I'm sorry that I got so upset. even though I didn't say anything, my energy was big. And so I'm sorry that I did that to you. And then we're able to start talking it out. And as we talked it out, we deepened the relationship at a completely different level. All of a sudden, there's this awareness of, first off, that when somebody gets upset, it doesn't mean that it has to get ugly. When I get mad, it doesn't mean I have any right or that I am right at all. It just means that I'm triggered. And once I become aware of it, it's my job to put myself in a timeout. It's my job to step back, take a breath, and just go, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so now that practice, because I've done it enough, works much faster. Say I'm in a meeting and I get triggered. I always have a pad of paper with me. I call it brain dumping. I will immediately write down what was just said and what I'm feeling. So and so just said this. I'm feeling rage, anger, irritation, embarrassment, whatever it is. And then I just leave it because I've acknowledged the trigger. It can calm and settle on the back burner while I stay present in the meeting. Then I can come out afterwards and take a look at what it was that upset me so much. And if I need to, I can go back to the person and ask a question. I can go back and start getting curious to see if I've misunderstood something. Or maybe I don't need to go back to them at all because I just simply know this one's on me. Our job is to notice when we get triggered, to notice when we're in habitual practices, and then pull back or zoom out so that we can see the big picture. Then we can come back in and respond. So remember that respond is to be responsible, response able, responsibility, response ability, the ability to respond. Words are important and they help us understand what we're doing. So instead of reacting to something, going into same old looping patterns, instead we can choose to center, to see the big picture, to find our own center ground, and then move forward from there. This is important because action from an old field creates the same life. So now let's make this real. I just want you to pause for a moment and feel what's actually present in your body. Not the story, the sensation, the emotion. What are you feeling right now? Now ask yourself, what am I creating from right now? I call this a field check. And then what would alignment feel like instead? So alignment might feel like acceptance, compassion, curiosity, clarity, calm, courage, connection. So what's my field state? Do a field check. And then what do you want to feel instead? And choose it. Not perfectly, just consciously. Now, I talked earlier also about a gap. So I'm going to give you a second piece to work with here. So we're going to do this in lifetime. I do this quite often when I'm teaching or with a client. So I just want you to first become aware of your breath. I like to close my eyes so I can bring my awareness to it, take it away from the outer world. So I just want you to become aware of your breath. Notice the in-breath, where it lands in your body. Maybe you're breathing up into your shoulders. Maybe you can roll them back, let them soften. Maybe you roll your neck out. Notice your inhale and your out breath. And between your inhale and your exhale, there's a pause. And just bring more awareness to the pause between the inhale and the exhale, and between the exhale and the inhale. So we're becoming aware of all four parts of that cycle of respiration. Inhale, pause. Exhale, pause. And just notice those pauses. Maybe suspend them, let them expand another moment or two. And as you become more aware of the pauses in your breath, bring your awareness to mind and just notice your thoughts. And notice how thoughts have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then there's a pause before the next thought begins. And see if you can align the pause between your thoughts with the pause between your breaths. And in that gap is where we have pure potential. In that pause is where we can choose any next thought. So instead of streaming, maybe into an old judgment, we pause, we take the breath. What's the next best possible thought you can have? Maybe it's catching a thought and asking the question, does this thought align with who I choose to be? Or maybe you're about to pull into an old reaction, an old pattern. And the question is, who do you want to be in this situation? Taking the breath, becoming aware of the pause, gives us the space to ask those questions. This is why Law 3 of Field and Form is the law of power. Our power is in the pause. So pay more attention to those pauses, not holding our breath, not gripping, but pausing, suspending, floating, expanding. Change the way you sense that in your body, and then can you recreate that sensation between your thoughts? When you're in a situation, can we take the breath, expand, and then come in? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? Most people are waiting for their life to change before they change how they feel. But your life changes when your field changes, and your field changes when you choose it. If this resonates, this is the work we do inside Align Your Life, inside the Aligned Human Project, and inside Alignment Operating System, moving from awareness into conscious creation in your life, and in the way you lead, and in the way you show up in this world. If you're here to build a life that doesn't cost you your nervous system, to lead, love, and create from alignment instead of exhaustion, you're in the right place. This is practical spiritualism. This is the Aligned Human Project. And this is where we stop reacting to life and start creating it. Alignment isn't something you achieve. It's something that you practice. So keep pausing, keep feeling, and keep choosing. You are the witness. You shape the field, and the field shapes your life. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember yourself. Because when you align with your truth, everything else begins to align with you. If this episode sparked something inside you, hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone walking their own path of awakening. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find free resources, programs, and community spaces waiting for you at practicalspiritualismco.com. Remember, alignment isn't a place you reach. It's a practice you live. So keep pausing, keep feeling, keep aligning. You are the field. You shape the form.